Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to News from the Pew, your only source for news from around the world that's distilled to make it slightly less frightening. I am your host, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic. You can find me at thearmedcatholic.com, and I am joined today by my wonderful panel. Coming to us from the great state of Kentucky, Mr. Fawaz Yazi. How are you today, sir?
Doing well, man. Thank you.
Excellent. And Steve's here. First question that we're going to look at today, or first topic that we are going to look at as far as news from the Pew, is the degradation or the continued collapse of the beautiful country of Mexico, which Our Lady went to visit and proclaim a good word. And this is what happens when you let your country be run by socialists and communists, or whatever you want to call them. Recently, it has been known that Mexico has decriminalized abortion throughout the country.
Land of the free and the home of the brave,
This is India.
where women are still treated like second-class citizens.
Oh, thank you.
They are denied a very basic human right, the right to their own
To murder
bodies.
babies.
Versus another country, which has been bullied and discriminated against by the first country. It is known globally as a third world nation, yet in a landmark move today, it has legally granted women the choice over their own bodies. I'm talking about the United States and Mexico. And while American women's abortion rights are still being challenged, Mexican women are celebrating today as their Supreme Court has decriminalized it.
Murder babies for all.
Mexico's Supreme Court has decriminalized abortion nationwide.
You just said that.
The landmark judgment legalizes abortion across all 32 states of Mexico. The Mexican Supreme Court said that denial of the possibility of termination violated the human rights of women. The court said on social media that the legal system that penalizes abortion is unconstitutional since it violates the human rights of women and people with the capacity to gestate. The judgment also opens the door for all government healthcare facilities to provide abortions, a move which has been welcomed by women's rights groups. Mexico City was the first of the country's states to decriminalize abortion in 2007. A dozen others followed suit. And here's the irony of the situation. Mexico's ruling goes in the opposite direction to the United States. After the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade decision in 2022, which had ensured the right to abortion.
There is no
American
right to
women now find themselves searching for abortion options, many crossing the border into Mexico to access these services.
Incorrect.
Can you believe it?
Can't believe it.
In the oldest democracy in the world, the reality is women are struggling to exercise their bodily autonomy.
I will go to France.
Yeah, please. Can you please get rid of this one?
Over the last 16 years. Back in 2007, they first legalized abortion here in Mexico City, in the capital. Then it was kind of really outlying place. People were campaigning, saying this was kind of a den of sin among this conservative country. But then gradually over the years, it's been more and more states. And finally, this has really changed things. One of the things that really surprising in a way is that at the beginning, the Catholic Church, and Mexico is still a vast majority Catholic country, the Catholic Church was really trying quite hard to fight abortion in the 2000s.
As they should.
And that resistance really collapsed in recent years. Politically, even the kind of socially conservative party doesn't really run on socially conservative issues anymore. It's kind of, there was one demonstration against the legalizing abortion that had like 2,000 people, very, very small. So a kind of big victory, a big change. And right across Latin America now, Colombia, Argentina, many countries where it seemed very difficult, a couple of decades ago, it's now illegal. Still some places in Central America holding out, like Nicaragua, El Salvador. But overall, massive change we've seen over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? A very different situation there. And as you say, across other South American countries, let's not forget the situation just across the border, though, in the US.
Absolutely. And it's a real change that, used to have the United States where you could get abortion right across the country, and Mexico being this conservative Catholic country. And so people from Mexico would go to the United States to get abortions. And now that's changed.
Enough,
and so you've got now kind of the United States parts of it are more conservative Christian country. Parts of it, very much not so. But then people then looking, well, if you're in Texas, you can go over to Mexico to get an abortion. Like a lot of people go over to get dental care from the United States now and various other medical procedures. So a big change there, and big change in the dynamic really between Mexico and the United States on this social issue.
Rights.
Shame on you, killing babies! You're murderers! You're murderers!
I like how they make it look crazy.
Across some parts of Latin America, the opposite is happening.
Esta es una victoria histórica para las mujeres en el país.
So how did a conservative region with strong Catholic roots manage to increase abortion access?
Murder
And
babies.
is there anything U.S. activists can learn?
You can get
go to Mexico.
paralyzed because you don't have legal abortion. So you don't have to be paralyzed.
Once again,
Let's
you don't
get
hate
one
journalism.
thing straight. Abortion access across Latin America varies. Some countries ban abortion unless it's a result of rape or the pregnant woman's life is at risk. And a few countries have outlawed abortion in all cases with no exceptions, like El Salvador, where women have been jailed for miscarriages or stillborn births.
Our fight at this point of the story is characterized by a diversity and a variety of strategies that we are operating all together to move in any direction.
So, what are some strategies that activists in the region focused on in their fight for reproductive justice?
I.e.
The
murder
vital
babies.
first step: organize, organize, organize. The groundwork for reproductive freedom began decades ago. This is partly because of a rich history of activist organizing across Latin America.
I.e.
Unlike the US,
communist.
where a lot of focus is on whether or not courts find abortion bans unconstitutional, change in Latin American countries comes from the ground up.
We work together as a region. So we have like this tradition of exchanges, experiences, and even symbols.
Let's start in Argentina, a country with deep roots in Roman Catholicism. There, activists built up networks of organizers across the country. Leading the fight on the ground was a national campaign for the right
Where's
to
the,
legal,
pride
safe,
flag?
and free abortion. They're an umbrella group of dozens of individual organizations that sought to unify activists. And unity among activists was important because women
These are
weren't
just
just facing
all
restrictive
progressive
abortion
buzzwords being
access.
tossed around at
They were
this
also facing unprecedented levels of femicide. In fact, at least 9 of the 25 countries with the highest femicide rates are in Latin America. Ni Una Menos began as a rallying call, not one less, referring to the crisis of gender violence in the country.
After Ni Una Menos, we had a kind of explosion. So we started to grow and grow and grow and grow.
Folks, this is what democracy
Activists
looks like.
quickly recognized that fighting against femicide also meant fighting for abortion access.
At the beginning, I think we never imagined what was going to happen. Like we never imagined a massive mobilization.
And at the end of 2020, Argentina's Congress legalized abortion until 14 weeks of pregnancy. Next door, in more secular Uruguay, feminist groups partnered together with medical groups, community-based organizations, and trade unions.
Latin America is a region that has a long tradition of encuentros feministas, feminist encounters. And those encounters are like spaces and places where feminists from many different countries exchanges strategies.
But there's one big difference in how the US fought for abortion access and how Argentina and Uruguay did. Roe v. Wade was argued on the basis of a pregnant woman's right to privacy. So basically, a person's right to choose whether or not to have an abortion. But in both Uruguay and Argentina, activists say that argument alone was not persuasive enough.
We didn't convince people with the argument, my body, my choice.
And this is where the second lesson comes in. Viewing abortion bans as a public health crisis and not just a personal affair. Organizers focus on educating the Argentine public on the health issues at stake. For example, government figures estimated up to 500,000 abortions were happening each year before legalization in 2020. And complications from illegal and unsafe abortions was a leading cause of maternal mortality in the country. This was also the case in Uruguay, where unsafe abortion caused an estimated 40% of maternal deaths in 2000. Well before legalization, doctors in Montevideo began counseling pregnant women on how to manage medication abortion, the use of abortion pills.
Even though abortion was illegal, the woman that has an unwanted pregnancy was a citizen and she has all the right to go to doctor or go to a midwife and have information.
Medication abortion is low risk and has a high success rate. Women could purchase the medicine themselves, and doctors counseled women with unplanned pregnancies on their options.
We have to empower women and give information.
In 2004, Uruguay's Ministry of Health formally adopted this harm reduction approach of using abortion pills before finally legalizing abortion in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy in 2012. Activists in the region have been working to get one message across: that banning abortions doesn't actually end the practice. It just ends safe abortions.
Because women are going to have an abortion, it doesn't matter what the, legal prohibitions are. And we know from the public health data that those abortions are going to be unsafe.
And this leads us to lesson 3, centering marginalized communities.
Dr. Nathanson has said that actually is just that he made that up.
Yeah.
This is where Colombia enters the picture.
So is
Their organizers focus on abortion access as a tool for equity.
We don't need the criminal law to regulate abortion.
Equity, diversity,
because the criminal
unity,
law and the crime of abortion is unfair, is counterproductive, is discriminatory. So with regard to access,
the buzzwords at home.
We made a huge emphasis on barriers. Women were facing barriers.
In 2017, Ana Cristina helped pioneer a movement called Causa Justa por el Aborto. The movement became a coalition that brought different reproductive justice organizations and activists together, some with over 40 years of experience to decriminalize abortion. Causa Justa filed a lawsuit with Colombia's constitutional court to remove abortion crime from the penal code. They argued that the people most harmed by an abortion ban were
the most vulnerable, the young women, the rural women, the less educated women, as it happens in many other areas of, criminal law.
The Constitutional Court agreed. In 2022, Colombia legalized abortion up to 24 weeks of pregnancy. Across the region, more change is on the horizon. Some countries are linking abortion access to democracy, like Chile, where the new leadership wants to enshrine abortion rights in the new constitution. But as the U.S. moves in the opposite direction, human rights experts worry the rolling back of protections could weaken rights around the world.
Oh no!
So advice from Latin America is not to see Roe as an end, but as a start of a new fight, one that activists south of the border will be there to support.
You can get, what I was saying in English, paralyzed because you don't have legal abortion. So you don't have to be paralyzed, but you are still working.
For us in Argentina, the international support was very important. What do you need? We will be here to support.
Folks, the money comes from pretty much the United States.
Support you.
Trash, all of it, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, I mean, how many buzzwords were in there? Unity, democracy, reproductive justice, equity, all that kind of nonsense, all flowing from these United States, all flowing with liberation theology, which is why the Catholic Church took a step back. Notice this is in Central America, where liberation theology made its bones, if you will. And I'll shut up and I will throw this to the panel and get their responses. John, thank you for joining us, my friend. It's always great to see you. And your reaction to the satanic worship of murdering babies across South America.
I mean, simply demonic, what you saw patently there. I don't know what else to say except that they've just kind of the oldest trick in the book. They've abused language, right? So once you have control of the language and can flip the meanings of words to pretty much their complete opposite, like aborto libre, to have, and I mean, well, yeah, I mean, there's so many things you could talk about, even the word abortion itself, what it originally meant, but, libre, free, just talk about the word freedom. All you gotta do is just throw that word up for someone to bat back and forth. And what does word freedom mean? All right. And what's it ordered to? So you're free. Okay. Free for what? Free from what? Right? That word always has connections to something. And just as human beings, I mean, we're never, even the deepest pagan, even the most committed atheist knows that he or she's not free completely. Like you're not free from the necessities that the body has, for nutrition and I mean even to keep the species going, reproduction, or of sleep, you name it. So free. You just when anyone's ever talking about free, just if they're saying a bunch of nonsense, you just want to get them to maybe think for a second. Okay, you use the word free. Do you really know what the word means? Do you know what it refers to? How it can't be used just by itself? There's no just freedom in the absolute for us mere mortals. And just get them to talk about that because they've abused the language. That would be my biggest comment right off the bat is they're throwing around that word free, which with modern day advertising and really, for as long as the U.S. has been a country, and it even started before the U.S. with kind of the propagandizing with the regard to the word free or freedom or liberty, whatever you want to call it. Just want to get people to take the one small philosophical step and say, okay, tell me a little bit about this freedom you speak of so frequently. That'd be my big concern.
Yeah, that's really well put, John. Thank you. Fwaz, a lot of women, a lot of women celebrating the right to murder their unborn children, and the secular journalists loved being able to twist the dagger on us and say, countries that used to have solid Roman Catholic establishments, now we're seeing this happen. So obviously the two go hand in hand as the church abdicates its role as standing in the breach. These things come to pass.
Yeah, good to be with you guys again. Like what Jonathan was saying, you have to pick words carefully, and unfortunately, what the left does, and they do this often and do this well, is they word salad and scribble some words here and there to distract from the very reality of what's actually happening. Because at the end of it all, just like I remember when the Clintons were talking about back in the days in the 90s, abortion must be rare, safe. Was it safe, rare, and something else?
Safe, legal, and rare.
Safe, legal, and rare. So, but the question becomes, again, you're using these words, and some people are like, well, look, that makes sense. But okay, number one, if it's just a piece of tissue and it's not human and has no soul, then why safe and rare? Why not all day, every day? If it's an actual human being, then safe or rare doesn't matter because you're actually killing a person. So in all reality, in order for the abortion argument has always been very simple, at least to me. I'm a simple person. I'm just a Kentucky boy who homesteads. And in all reality, it's just, if it's a human being, which it is, you shouldn't kill it. Kill him or her. If it's not, then do what you want. And then I go back to the quote, I believe it was Pius X or Pius V, that all evils of the world are due to lukewarm Catholics. And if you go back to South America, and the devil likes to do that. He likes to humiliate. He's going to attack Catholics, going to attack Christians the most. And my biggest problem here is, I think this is their way. When the U.S. It was a dagger to them when we reversed Roe v. Wade. Now it hasn't really turned out in our favor yet. We haven't fought enough for it. But you do have, I think it was 32 states that have either outlawed abortion or have made some restrictions. So it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be, but we still got to get the other states coming. The population in other countries like Europe are declining. So what demographic, which continent, which area are having the most kids? They've been trying in Africa for the longest time to have abortion and contraception, but the Africans don't want it. They're so tribe and family friendly. In South America, that's where they're having all those kids. And in order for you to take control, you have to have population control. So you have to get rid of many people as you possibly can, as fast as you can. So you had a deficit here. So now where do you go next? You go to the place where they're having the most kids out of all these other places in the world. So you have to decrease the population there in order for you to control a small number of the world. And this is what the WEF and those guys have been trying to do. So an abortion is a fantastic tool for them in order for them to get control. But the reason I brought up the quote is because, number one, I think the very reason we have, the so-called Gay Marriage Act was because Catholics, for the longest time, were very lax on marriage. if you look at the divorce rate, Catholics are amongst the highest. Contraception, we're also up there. We may not agree with abortion, theologically or even morally. You have a lot of women who have them, and they do hide them, and I've seen this. But one of the major things about South America is I worked with Hispanics that came from Mexico in San Diego. We had about 400 confirmation students. Believe it or not, among the women, among the teenage girls, that generation, a lot of them didn't agree with abortion. It's just something that they just didn't agree with, whether it's faith, culture, family. So I guarantee you that the majority of people in those areas probably are not for abortion. But then again, here comes the pressured Supreme Court, probably from the WF and all those other places that appointed these people. They have to have their sacrifices to Moloch, and that's just the way it is at the moment. But the problem is Catholics are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you want to make an argument that the Catholic Church is following the world right now? I'll make an argument that the world is following the current state of the church, which is very sad.
That's absolutely the case. People want to make the church secondary. Church is primary. Church has been since its founding and always will be the primary role. And as I said before I threw it to you, when they abdicate, somebody will be more than happy to fill that gap. But Quaz mentioned it, Steve. This is definitely part and parcel with the powers that be, their plan to try and do population deficit, whether it's climate change, whether it's a jab, whether it's any of these other things. It is just all part of their multi-pronged approach to killing as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's why I played those videos from France and India and other places, just that the world is watching in a sense. And the French one and the longer one, the quote unquote documentary one, both noticed the Catholicism part in it. And as the French guy, the French reporter was talking about how the church was in the 2000s really good against fighting against it, and kind of quit in a sense. So the enemy sees that. You see that everywhere. I mean, like here in the States, Rhode Island, cemented in their Constitution.
My good old home state. Yeah. Rhode Island used to be very Catholic, man. Very, very Catholic.
Yeah, Oklahoma, you get peeps out of there. Protestant state. Rhode Island, take quote unquote more Catholics up there. Not a peep.
They're Kennedy Catholics, man. They're Kennedy Catholics.
Yeah. And we talk a good game, just like everything else. But when we put the action to it, we suck. You see that on social media. A lot of people talk good games. They put this front up on social media. You look at a lot of these guys, you think they're doggone saints in the making on Twitter. Put them real time, see how quick they get angry, see how quick they lose it. They do this, or they succumb not to do a sign of a cross, or put a muzzle up, maybe. I can say, just like last year, 2 years ago, those people muzzle up, and I get shots. I get selfies from friends. Hey, look at me in my face mask. We aren't serious. Sheen had that great line of talking about Russia having all the fire and no truth, and here we are, the Catholics have all the truth and no fire. He's 100% right then. He's 100% right now. We don't have fire. We have fire. The smoke comes out when we're tweeting. That's about it. That's about as far as the fire you get. You get you need a new keyboard. How many Twitter warriors out there typing up? But actual doing something? No. We all talk. And then maybe we do something, or it's like maybe it's almost like we do the wrong thing. It's like the Dodger thing. Oh, look at us. We're doing something. It's like that little thing with him picking his nose. I'm doing something. We're over there doing a protest. Great. What did that do? During the entire game, they promoted LGBT stuff every inning, in between every half inning. And they did, and you were protesting something that went on about an hour and a half before, and when 15 people showed up to it. All we did was give it more publicity. And nothing changed. What happened afterwards? Oh no, what was it? We start becoming the left. In the sense of when they start saying, oh, look at that hurricane took out Louisiana, look at that hurricane took out Florida, with all those crazy anti-abortion people out there. Look, God is doing that to those anti-gay folks. And then when we did about LA, oh look, that's God's revenge on the Dodgers. Come on. Just because you saw an aerial photo of a parking lot, that was your thing. Oh, that's God's revenge on the Dodgers right there for that what they did. Again, we aren't serious. We're whatever we can get to score some likes and tweets and shares. The dumpster fire. I couldn't think of the D word. Here's a few examples of what's going on around here. Let me pull this up real quick. Here's Brandon, Restore Road, just the other day. They will get Roe Part 2 back into DC.
Oh, the great thing is the Republicans will shepherd it to them.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Republicans, good. Thank you for bringing that up. I totally
It's
forgot
my
about
job.
it.
It's what I do
going on
here.
right now.
And the saddest part is that we're doing this to ourselves. I mean, this isn't some enemy action. This isn't what Russia or China is doing. We need to be honest here. It absolutely is a national security concern. And I've spoken with numerous military leaders who are very concerned about this.
That's Congressman Seth Moulton. He joined us this morning. He's among a number of lawmakers and defense leaders calling for an end to a months-long blockade on military promotion. Senator Tommy Tuberville has delayed. He's blocked the confirmations of more than 300 military promotions.
And the Alabama Republican is protesting a Pentagon policy that provides travel expenses and paid leave to service members seeking abortion care.
And Nick's back on this one. How does this stalemate come to an end? I mean, he is not backing down. And even Republicans are saying they're not going to give in to him.
And Adrian, by our own reporting, we do know that other Republican senators are starting to lean on Senator Tuberville, asking him to back down. Senator Tuberville, speaking to Leland Vittert, host of On Balance last night, doubling down on what he says is the only way to end this stalemate. He wants them to vote on each and every nominee, leaving lawmakers little time to debate anything else.
I'm not holding up nominations.
A defiant Senator Tommy Tuberville appearing on News Nation Wednesday.
They can bring them to the floor one at a time. I can't hold them up.
Saying he won't back down unless the issue goes through Congress.
And if we just go through Congress and vote on it, I'll accept whatever. But right now, they're just trying to force it down the taxpayers' throats.
For the first time in history, the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps are all without Senate-confirmed leaders, and more vacancies are on the way. Like General Mark Milley, whose tenure as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff ends in October. But before that happens, his replacement general, C.Q. Brown, needs to be confirmed. Rather than schedule an individual vote, congressional Democrats are calling on their Republican counterparts to pressure Tuberville to finally relent. But the Alabama senator is refusing to budge.
I can hold up groups at a time. That's what I'm doing.
Until the Pentagon gets rid of a policy he maintains is illegal.
I'm just trying to protect the integrity of the Constitution, how we do things here. Let the laws go through Congress, not through the White House. Let's do it the right way.
That stance drawing the ire of the military's top brass, who issued a strong rebuke. In a Washington op-ed, the secretaries of the Navy, Air Force, Space Force, and Army claim Tuberville is risking national security.
If I thought this had anything to do with our national security and not having us prepared for what's going on across the world, I wouldn't be doing this. But it's obvious that the Democrats are trying to use it to their advantage.
More than 600 generals and admirals are.
So they'll use that to push him into doing it. And thankfully, he was a coach, so he's used to pressure. So I doubt he'll cave, but the pentagram, they'll go after him. The military-industrial complex, they'll go after him. Notice Space Force is now part of the military. Anybody saw that? Can see that coming? Back to this. So, okay, yeah. Restore Roe. You'll have Roe 2.0. Why? Because we love our centralized government. What happened in Mexico? 20 states were against, even down there, 20 states were against it. But the centralized government, hey, that's communism, decided to ram it down their throats. What do we have in D.C.? What do conservatives even like? They like centralized government. They want D.C. to tell them what to do, how to do it, where to go. We're going to vote on one person out of a, quote, country, unquote, of 360 million people. That's insane to think of. One person, we'll pick out of two. Those are the two guys we're going to vote for. And then you think your voting doesn't matter. Your voting counts somehow. Even though there's a guy on record back in 2010 that says, oh, yeah, we hacked that thing in 5 minutes and fixed it up, and there's no way anybody can figure that out and find it and trace it and all that doodadle. But, hey, go vote harder. So that's what we're worried about. Hey, we're going to vote for it in next November. Who's going to quote unquote run the country, which is contrary to what it was set up to be. But that's how we're going to do it. Everything's got to come out of D.C. Forget the states, even though that's how you beat this stuff over and over. You just bang your head against the wall. Federalism's the way to go. Even with the lockdowns coming out, Huckabee Sanders comes out. We will not lock down. We will not do masks. We will not do jabs. We will not do this. Say what you want about Sanders. That's how you do it. And that's how you stop this stuff coming down in the next month or two. But now we got to go. What's Brandon doing? What's D.C. doing? What's going on? Let's turn on Fox News and see what's going on in D.C. every time. Again, that's where the money's at. That's why you have those guys like, oh shoot, all those Tucker guys. There's like Tucker right there. He has no job if we live in federalism. Why? He has to live off federalism to have that. What national
everybody
eyeballs?
Yeah.
Look at your local news. They don't get you're supposed to be watching that. That's who you live with, your sheriff. Your sheriff can protect everything that goes on in your area. That's why Delaware got rid of the sheriffs. They literally banned sheriffs because they know that they can't. They want they don't want a little speed bump anymore. You got to get rid of the speed bump. All right. So here's abortion in the states, 2020, 2023. NBC News. Every state is higher except for 4 or 3 in the District of Columbia. Georgia's down 18%. Arizona's down 16%. Indiana's down 3%. Every other state is up at least 8%. Ohio's up 8%. Even my boyhood town in South Carolina is number 3, 124% in the bright red Bible Belt as they come, South Kakalaki. 124% increase in baby killing. New Mexico, 220%, number 1. Wyoming, they had more abortions than people who live there. Seriously, they went up 202%. What the wide world of sports is going on? Texas, here's a local news. Highways are the next anti-abortion target. One Texas town is resisting. They're trying to pass an ordinance that you can't use their local roads to drive somebody out of state for an abortion. Beautiful. Localism, that's 101 right there. I'll get off my lawn. Oh, darn it. They had this, failures, Oklahomans. Abortion surged in states near those with new bans, says study. Colorado.
That's because we're too busy. We don't want to fight at the local level. No. We don't want to fight at the local level at all. We want to give to the national right for life, the national this, the national that. Because, Steve, if we get rid of this, what are we going to do in February or March? We can't go to Washington, D.C. and party at the March for Life if we get rid of all that stuff.
That's what Dr. Paul said years ago when they asked, he was 100% across the board pro-life, and they had somebody interview him. So why is your pro-life bills get shut down by, quote-unquote, pro-life GOPers? He said they don't want abortion ever to end because that's their political football. They have to run it because it's all about winning elections. Yep. So if you get rid of baby killing, well, how do you campaign? You get up on there and say, send me money. I will go to D.C. to end it. Oh, wait, it isn't it. Well, we got to bring it back so we can have a federal amendment to end it all together. That's how I'll do it. Thank you, Lindsay. So that's the only just like the military right there. How many quote unquote conservatives, you say anything about the military, they lose their marbles over. It is sacrosanct to most people. Love the soldier, don't love the wars. I've been crucified by people because they were upset because I said something about the war. No, I didn't say anything about the soldier. There's illegal wars going on over there. You got bases in 200 nations. Germany. Hey, didn't World War II end? But yet, I actually had a guy tell me, we need to have a base in Germany to protect. Well, we just need to have a base in Germany. Well, what? And how many $1 trillion we bankrupted? There's no way we get out of this in one piece, which, again, we have to break this thing up and figure out afterwards how to go. But no one wants that because we have to win the Olympics. We have to swear to a rag, swear to a flag. Oh, did I trigger somebody? A socialist pledge. Okay, go say the socialist pledge. Oh, I'm not a socialist. I hate socialism. Right? You say a socialist pledge. I hate communism. Well, you like the idea of it because you like the centralized government controlling everything. So it goes back to the beginning about that. We're not serious. And we'll vote harder in this. we'll do another rant and after the next election too.
Yeah, I abortion, guns, I call those fundraising issues. They put them on a letter, and they fire them out, and that's how they get $5 to $10. They will never let either one of them go because those are the way they make their money on them.
Rick, mind if I say something?
Absolutely, jump in.
Thanks, but and going off of what Steve was saying, this is one of the things that Vivek, when he talks, he's always talking about the national revival. You know, I don't want a national divorce. I want a national revival. Is Vivek's whole thing, and it's like revival. Name one thing, you know, either shawarma, Ramaswamy, whatever your name is. Name one thing this country agrees on anymore. What are we going to revive behind? Like, what is the one thing we're going to stand behind? You know what I'm saying? So it's getting to a point where, you know, at least just be honest. At least say we're a point of no return. This side's going to battle. This side's going to battle. Whoever wins out. It's like this is the way it is. Unfortunately, they've separated us to the point where we've bickered against one another, and they've gotten people to believe that killing children is virtuous and great. And now we want to revive the country and have what in common? Nothing. We have nothing in common. We can't even agree. Not to violate a child in such a manner. So I don't see a revival in this country, unfortunately.
It can't. There was never there was never a national revival because there was never a national idea. There was never a national identity until Lincoln burned one into the South with Sherman on his march to the sea.
Exactly.
I mean, back to the idea we talked before. So that if you look at sports, use the sports analogy. You're in Gamecock country. You're in Tiger country. You're in
Aggie country.
Longhorn Aggie country. That's actually being used correctly in that you're united to a common interest. You have a common language. You have a common society. I have nothing in common, nor do I want anything in common with people in the Northeast. Massachusetts, we tell these guys to get out of our state. That's you protect your. That's an immigration that we don't want. Is Massachusetts people coming down to North Carolina or South Carolina, that's what happened in Charleston. Charleston, or especially Folly Beach, used to be. You could put a cake in the middle of the beach when I was back in college, and nobody was saying anything. Now it's completely different. You know, the "Don't Tread on Me" story. They used to fly on every building in Charleston. Now you got an influx of Ohioans and other people from the Northeast just because of college, and that culture has changed. That's the immigration that we don't care about mostly. I mean, California's moving to Colorado, changed up Colorado, or California
destroyed Colorado. It didn't change it; destroyed that beautiful state.
Virginia was the first one on the pick. They used to be blood red, and they picked up B2 Bob Dorner, I think his name was. He talked about that was the experiment state. They turned it from red to blue. And Texas is another one that they're going after, which is the college town. Austin, that's a nutty place.
Dude, it's not. It's Austin, Houston, Fort Worth, Dallas. Any major city in the state of Texas is pretty much a no-go zone if you want to keep your rights.
Was it Madison? But he's using people like the Greeks about the largest. What's the largest population for a republic was 3,500 people or something like that. Think about that next time. Think about that next time you get high. Think about that when you see any big city. You know, people in New York. Oh, I can't stand New York City. New York City. You can't stand New York City. But you're not going to do anything about it. We can't stand California. We're not going to do anything about it. We just like to complain about it. But in reality, even the states should break up. New York City should be broken up into about 5 different boroughs, states. And that's their republic. That's what it used to be. The Republic of Venice. The Republic of Malta. Jonathan could rat off probably all the republics that were in Italy. I mean, Marshall had a great post a couple years ago just for diocese, and it had a photo of Italy, and you're talking about how these bishops could walk across their diocese because it was walking. You could do that. They weren't gigantic. South Carolina, the entire state is a diocese. North Carolina is 2. There were bishops walking back and forth. Now they did in the old days. The bishop from Colorado, I remember him. We did a thing on Colorado. He took a mule or a horse and went from Colorado down to New Mexico. That's a different type of dude right there. And Pierre de Smet went from St. Louis all the way up to Montana. Again, different men back in those days. But how do you govern something that vast and think you're going to get something out of it? You can't do that in politics. You can't do that in religious.
Nope, no, not at all. And that's the point, is that they wanted to centralize this, so people just didn't. There's no reason. Well, I mean, besides their politics, Oregon, Washington State, California should have anything to do with the feds. I mean, in a just society, they're so far away, it doesn't even matter. But they wanted it nationalized so they could bring around the scary BA 1529645134259 variant that has now emerged. And wouldn't you know, Dr. Jill Biden, she's not a doctor, she has an educational doctorate, that's a big difference, got sick, because if she was Dr. Quinn medicine woman, she wouldn't have gotten sick, but since she isn't a doctor, she did get sick, and this was the White House's response. And I have a theory on the other side.
I didn't get that video on that.
I see it right here. I see Karine. Is that
oil. That's for the oil.
Oh, it's for the oil? Oh, all right. Well, anyway.
Don't play her. Come on.
She said that Dr. Jill got sick and Joey B is going to start wearing a mask. He's going to be masked indoors and all this other kind of stuff. Folks, I'm telling you, I know I said this before. This is the way they bump Joe Biden. He's going to get sick in the spring of next year. It's going to be real bad. It's going to do two things. It's going to reinforce the COVID narrative, which they already started to do with Whoopi. She's now sitting in a room by herself with a mask talking about how she needs it. They're going to bump Joey B because he's going to get sick and he's not going to be able to continue. It's going to show how bad COVID is, and they're going to slide Plastic Newsom in, and he's going to be running for the Democratic nomination. That's my theory. It's probably wrong. But, John, your thoughts on the fact that now they've gone from just a couple weeks ago, oh, you know, the idea you should be masked and things like that. Now they're going to start doing what they did in the first go around. Oh, look, this person's sick. Look at that person's sick. And try to gin up the public to beg for those type of restrictions because they're going to be scared. The fear porn has begun.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I guess I called it wrong. Then if it ends up going through as it seems like it might, because I didn't think they would try it again. So I say so soon, 3.5 years after it was first tried. So I mean, I guess we'll see how broad it comes. So just to give you an idea, out of all of us, I feel like I'm in the busy metro section of a pretty big city, a fair bit here in Atlanta, and I haven't seen any more masking than normal. So I don't know. I guess it remains to be seen how much it's rolled out. I mean, Rick, I think you're right. You know how you describe what the end game is and kind of the idea of the gearing up the fear, but and I don't know. I'm sure the diabolical minds that have planned this have been thinking about it long and hard, and you know they have that diabolical cunning to them. But I don't know. My thought is it's still going to be so restricted to those who already bought it the first time and have not had buyer's remorse, which I think there's a large sector that had buyer's remorse, so to speak, about the jab, probably more than even say publicly. I mean, we know a lot of the names of folks who said, I was wrong. I was touting the horn at first, but then after that, I've come to see the error of my ways. We know about those that are more public, but I get the feeling just in and this is more anecdotal from private conversations with people, that there are a lot more out there who took the jab and are just said that they'll never do it again. No boosters, whatever the next thing might be, if it's in their lifetime, let's hope they make it that long, they would not be going for that one either. So I don't know. The only thing I can imagine is that, and this would line up with things that are our government or criminal government, or the criminal actors in our government, I should say, to be most precise, have done in the past, and that is take the matter into their own hands. And kind of like what happened in World War II, and ever since out there, Agent Orange. Just think about the different things that the government and the military-industrial complex as part of the government have done. And they'll probably do what this, I think it was the Yale study, where they were injecting the mRNA in an aerosol manner into the rats. They were mice. I can't remember which animal, but yeah, there you go. So, that would be my next best guess, is that it's not going to be done the same way this past one was done, because as we can make these funny comparisons to Idiocracy because, part of it rings true, but, there's still enough, I think, attachment in the older generation to reality before iPhones, that is to actual reality, that I think it would, I don't know, I don't think it would quite fly as well as it did the first time. So I think there's more to the rollout than what we've been told so far, and that whatever other part of the puzzle, I mean, I don't know, it could be something so serious that makes people beg for it. Could happen, but I feel like there's still a large part of the plan, as always, that has not been revealed until it actually hits the fan. We'll see.
You guys begged for it, so here it is. Here's the audio clip from KJP. I don't even know her name anymore. The lesbian.
We know that these vaccines work, right? We know when people say up to date with their vaccine, that works. And
that was from 2 days ago, after Joe got it, who's double jabbed, double boosted.
But that was it, right? That wasn't bad.
Yeah, no, Jill got it, and now he's
This is what you said after Joe got it.
We know that these vaccines work, right? We know when people say up to date with their vaccine, that works. And
Ryan out there, you won't get it. You get, that was the sales pitch.
Yep, that was it. Yeah, if you do it, you'll never get it again. And the fact of the matter is, Flaws, he had the hens on The View saying, "Oh, COVID's back," even though we were like, they told us it was an endemic. It's just going to be here no matter what. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot of normies who don't understand how this whole thing works, and they tend to believe that this stuff will come back again. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad we got great information from the Rastafarian Red Mob, but. As far as what you said goes, this goes to show you how programming and indoctrinating in schools for all of these years does to people's brains. Number one, when you give them circus and bread, and then you get them to rely on their emotions, there's one emotion that you could use to control almost anybody, and that's the emotion of fear, because people start fearing their own lives versus doing what is right and doing what is virtuous and with heroic virtue. People who stood their ground and did not get this jab, even though that they were faced with losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods. I mean, fellas, I got something to tell you. Women love a man who can conquer his own will. But more than that, women love a man who can take a stance, and no matter what, stick with that stance. And that's what I think a lot of those men did. And because imagine, like, if you're like, all right, I'm not taking it. And they said, well, you'll lose your job. Like, okay, fine, I'll take it. I mean, I think your wife will looked at you with some sort of disdain. It's like, like, come on, like, stand your ground. And kudos to the guys who did, give them, I didn't have to deal with that, unfortunately, because, my brother and I, we own our own business. So I don't have to deal, my brother's not going to force me to get the jab.
That'd be awkward if it did.
Yeah, it would be awkward. I would just tell him to kick rocks and go make a rap song. But I congratulate the guys who did. But like you said, the normies, unfortunately, you could lie to them. You could lie with the same lie about 3 or 4 times, and they'll still believe you. We got to see 100% after what we went through. If there's not 100% of people saying, "Fool me once," right? I don't understand. Like your vote counts. Like, you believe Fauci as the expert after he's lied to you numerous of times. If you still believe this guy 3 years later, your vote shouldn't count because you can't make a rational judgment. Yet your vote counts the same way as somebody who can make a rational judgment. That's the problem with democracy. If you feed people enough candy, circus, and bread, you get them to believe anything. Now, luckily here in Kentucky, I'm in a small town, and I haven't seen a single mask. I mean, we barely saw any, even the height of the pandemic. We're more rural, so we're kind of separated from one another, so it wasn't as bad. But the health of people in Kentucky, and then another thing, I hope people learn their lesson the last 3 years. Get healthy. It's like this. That's the best way to beat this thing, because who did it affect? Those who were obese, those who were unhealthy. And to some people, it was not due to their own fault. Some people had cancer. I understand that. Do what you can to protect those people by, keeping them home and making sure they get, the proper medication and then the proper exercise and what, all the vitamins that they need. Well, but get healthy, stick to your guns, and keep pushing forward. And I think you're right, Rick. I think they're really trying to create a story, a narrative to get Biden out, especially because the latest polls, and I take polls in a grain of salt, but the latest polls that came out, he is underwater in almost every demographic except for, I think, college-educated women, suburban women, and even they're bleeding for the blacks and the Hispanics. They took all of the Republicans that are running. I think even Nikki Haley was ahead of Biden at this point. So they can't afford to get anybody else in there, especially Trump. So you got to get Biden out. I don't know if Newsom is going to be the right choice for them, mainly because I don't think he's liked across the country. He might be liked somewhat in California, but across the whole country, people don't like California. So he might not be liked. But I tell you who is, and that's Michelle. She's very well liked. If she's in the ticket,
Mike.
If Big Mike's in the ticket, it's going to have a hard time beating him because it's another named Obama, which he's running the Biden administration to begin with right now. Biden's just a puppet. Because how do I know this? We're seeing the same policies we saw from 2008 and 2016. It's It's Obama's third term. So be prudent. Practice the virtue of, like I said last week, practice the virtue of providentia. Make future decisions based on past experiences. And if you're not seeing what they're doing, and the fact that this is coming up during the election time, this is the smartest virus I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't get you when you're sitting down in a restaurant. It doesn't get you after midnight. It doesn't get you.
It doesn't go sideways.
It doesn't go sideways. It only comes around during election time. If people can't see what's going on, I can't help you. Like you're just lost, and your vote shouldn't count because you can't even make a rational decision.
So, Steve, you have the rise of pi, because it's just infinity. How's this going to impact places like New York, which used to be sanctuary cities, but now have actually decided to use right-wing talking points from 3 years ago? Mayor Adams said New York is a sanctuary city. Now he's NIMBA, not my backyard, because they have taken over hotels. They are literally everywhere in New York. I was not a big fan of Greg Abbott's thing at first of chipping them, but apparently this was actually a genius move because it's actually forcing New York to actually deal with the consequences of the idea of unfettered, unchecked illegal immigration. So of course this can only aid the spread of COVID, right? Right, Steve?
I'm glad Jonathan brought up the aerosol thing. The alt media has been talking about that for a couple of years. Again, you guys are kooks, and wait, they've done it. They've been trying to do it. It's one way to get rid of your being able to say yes or no to it. Nobody my choice. Well, you ain't got a chance, and you don't want to stay away from air if it's in the air. But no, that's it looks at federalism again. Look at New York's doing their thing, and New York City's doing their own thing, and Texas is doing another, and other states are doing that. I mean, you said the porn thing a minute ago. Just you saw that happen with Texas and Pornhub. A federal judge said Texas can't be a state, and they must allow the porn guys run amok in their state. And Texas bill was signed by Texas law by the Texas governor legally, and a Fed judge came in and said, "Nope, you got to do what we say." So there again, and if just tell as for what I said, go kick rocks. That's the response to anything that comes out of DC. With what's his face in New York City, it's okay when we do it, man. Mindset. They want us to take all the
New York City.
New York City. Yes, New York City. They want us to do it. If we complain, if they send it to, let's say, Charlotte or Columbia, South Carolina, and anybody there complain, "Oh, you little KC rednecks, knuckle dragging Neanderthals. Oh, racists. But we send them to there. They go there. Oh no, I can't believe you guys are doing that. We can't have that, people. We have a standard to live by up here. Notice you Hick Hayes got it, because if you don't, you're racist. If we don't do it, when it's just you're racist because we don't want to do it. It's funny how that happens, and most of these guys never get called out for what they are. But it's fun to see at least some of the governors have a spine. You know what? Like DeSantis and Abbott do it. Send it to Chicago. Send it to New York. You want this? All right. As that line with Andrew Jackson, he made his bed. Now you sleep in it. So yeah, you voted for this. You should have to take it up. You want that in your area? Your constituents need to take care of your what you screwed up with, and because they don't want that. They know that it would lose if that were. Oh, we ain't getting this bum in here. We put you in here to do this, not to do this to us. But hey, that's your boy. That's your lady. I mean, whatever it is. It's kind of like Mitch having a glitch the last couple of times. We got how many guys that knew Moses making laws. These guys can't even walk right now without just going, I need a reboot. Or forgetting where they are, forgetting what their name is, forget dementia is running amok. How many of these guys are on drugs? Literally. And we're not talking about the stuff that you can grow and you get in trouble for in Mexico. The cartel guys. No, these guys are duped up on pharmaceutical stuff, whacked off their minds, and they're making quote unquote laws that we quote unquote have to obey, that's all they do is make stuff up, make it, and then they disobey all of them anyways. Again, just yeah, I cry a river. Don't cry for me, Argentina, or JT cry me a river for New York. It's going to happen to a better guy. Throw some pizza over his fence.
That's right. Get rid of the pizza in that regard. So yeah, we have the mayor of New York complaining about that as well. We also have some news that could potentially impact you economically down the line, and that is quietly and discreetly. But before we get to that, we actually do have somebody doing something supposedly in Washington. You have JD Vance, who is trying to do a freedom to breathe bill that bans federal mask mandates. Good for him. Has a snowball's chance in hell of getting through the Senate. But hey, he can put it on his website and fundraise off of it. So good for him on that regard.
On that time, there should never be that, because they have no authority to even do that. There's zero authority from DC to tell everyone to muzzle up, take a jab, build a home, whatever. They have zero authority. We shouldn't need that. If we knew what we were doing, I guess we had a somewhat snowballs, two working brain cells to know how this works.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's pretty much everything the federal government, roads, the thing they talk about was ceiling fans, how they want to outlaw those or whatever the case may be. The founders didn't envision any of that in any way, shape, or form.
18 enumerated powers, and ceiling fans ain't one of them.
Yeah, ceiling fans, none of that stuff. But they're going to continue to do it because most people just want Netflix and chill and Domino's, and they just want to be as comfortable and as lethargic as possible. And that's why we keep going towards that. But of course, things might get pretty hectic when you see, speaking of things that the federal government should not have any control over, you have the Bidens quietly shutting down oil pipelines and oil reserves in Alaska. So in the middle of the night doing so, think gas is bad now. That is what's coming our way. I think we have another soundbite from
administration is currently trying to refill the strategic petroleum reserve, but if prices continue to spiral out of control, would you consider tapping it and selling more on the market to lower prices?
So don't want to get too much into hypotheticals or what may or may not happen. Just want to be very careful. Clearly, that's something that the Energy Department focuses on as it relates to
that Energy Department
of refilling. So just not going to get ahead of what the Energy Department might do. And so I'm just going
to. What's coming next?
Well, Charles, I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is that the summer driving season is coming to an end and prices traditionally fall. The bad news is summer's ending, and I like summer. I don't want it to end, but other than that, despite the fact that we'll get that normal break as we get past the summer driving season, we're in an era of much higher gasoline prices. I don't expect a major fall, maybe 10 to 15 cents a gallon, and then we're going to start going up because America is running on empty. We're not producing as much oil as we could, and the Biden administration is.
Production cut from Saudi Arabia. I mentioned this yesterday, right? So they're extending this oil production cut all the way through the end of the year. That's going to keep prices higher at the pump. And they said that now the international benchmark, Brent crude was up 96 cents Tuesday morning following the news, hitting nearly $90 per barrel. It was the cut of 1 million barrels per day. Now, remember, this was announced back in July, and it was extended into fall, and I told you it was going to be extended again, and of course, it's going to be extended all the way through December. That's what Riyadh announced Tuesday. Total production around 9 million barrels per day for the final 3 months of 2023. Now, these are separate from the broader, the production schedule for OPEC. OPEC says that they're not going to make any further cuts for the remainder of the year, but Saudi Arabia is the single largest producer within OPEC of oil. So that's going to affect, obviously, it's going to affect us. It's going to make it harder to fill up your tank. It's going to make it, more expensive. And it's still hot outside. And then we're going to go into winter. All of this is designed, and the reason why.
Oh, Dana, you're muted.
I love how she went to commentate. Then we'll go into winter.
That's some breaking news. That's some breaking news right there. Good thing St. Dana Lash is there, as Mike Church calls her, St. Dana Lash of the NRA. The original, she is the empress of the gun bunnies, by the way. She was the first gun bunny out there. So you have to give her praise. You have to give her props on that. But the fact of the matter is, they are absolutely doing everything they can to kill as many people as possible. All right. Fossil fuels keep people alive. Coal, oil, cheap energy helps people heat their home. This is going to be really bad when you get to cities, right? One thing you'll see with the decrease in coal and oil and natural gas and all that stuff, people are going to start trying to heat their homes with candles, with space heaters in these older homes. In every year, there's at least 10 stories about some apartment complex in a city somewhere going up in flames because somebody left a space heater on or candles. It's going to double. It's going to triple now. Not to be a fear porn guy, but if people are going to try to heat themselves, and they're not going to go willingly and freeze. And that's going to cause a lot more destruction because of this. Remember, Joey B, Dana Lash, all these people are not going to go cold. They're not going to go hungry. They're not going to do any of these things because they could care less about you and me. So, Fwaz, what do you think about that? I didn't toss that up to anybody. I'm like, oh, why is it silent? Because I didn't toss the rock. Fwaz, what do you think?
I mean, I don't have much to say. I mean, we've been beating the same drums since we started this news channel that Steve, brought everybody together. We've been talking about the plan, and due to Steve credit and also Rick, the predictions that you've made, it's all coming to fruition. This is what they're doing. They're trying to get rid of anything that makes you independent of yourself, because an independent person doesn't rely on government. And also, if everything goes electric, they can turn on and shut off whatever they want, whenever they want. And if your social credit score isn't great, then you don't get to have the nice things in life. So I said this when that song came out, the country, the North Folks of Richmond song.
Oh, Richmond, north of Richmond.
Yeah, great song and a great message. And when that song came out and I saw the reaction from YouTubers, blacks, whites, Asians, everybody could relate to that song. You knew from right then and there that we don't have a racist problem in this country. We have a problem with elite classism. And it's us versus them. It's those who are really trying to get day to day, to live in virtue, live in simplicity, try to raise your family, and use the things that God has given us, versus those who are really trying to make everything dependent on them, slaves and masters. And this is a way to do it. You got to cut. You got to slowly. You can't turn it on too fast because the frog will jump off. You got to slowly get people used to the idea of higher gas prices, and then you got to choke them out to the point where they submit and say, you know what, just give me the subsidies for this electric car. I just want to go through my day, and that's what's going to end up happening.
Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Great Reset plans, right? I mean, you brought up the fans going up to fan. What realm does that make any sense? Oh, we're going to go after your ceiling fans because it's hurting the planet. Shut up! And who's buying that? Hey, you got to stop driving your car because it's killing the planet. Remember, I wish I could play the George what's his face? That Carlin clip on not liberals and their green agenda, because it's hysterical and true. Man. You talk about the pride to think that we are doing something to the planet when you go up in a plane, look down, and you're not even a spot, not even a dust spot on the ground. We watch it. If you watch the local news, maybe not in Texas. I don't know how you guys are doing out there in terms of that, but it's funny. Every time I see the weather report, it comes up with the high for the day and the record. It sure as anything, the record is like 1920, 1925. I think yesterday was 1927. He just laughed, everyone's going, how hot it is. It's the hottest ever. By the way, here's the high, here's the low, here's the record, 1927. Wait, time out. You said it was the hottest ever. It was supposed to be the hottest in the last 10,000 years, whatever they made up the number. It was hot when Babe Ruth was playing. It was what's the deal? It's one of those things. They're going to lie to you straight up and gaslight you and tell you about all this, that you're the problem, you're the reason. And you see in the movies, The Matrix, the humans are the virus
disease,
of the world.
Virus. Yeah.
You are the virus of the planet. And all the shows talk about, a lot of the modern ones have talked about that you're the problem. You need to get rid of this. This is wrong. Humans are bad code. It's fun. We were watching. I told you about. I mentioned the Person of Interest a couple times. There was in the season 5. There was a episode when H1N1 was unleashed in the hospital, and they're all wearing masks and gloves. It's kind of hysterical. You see Caviezel doing all this fighting in a mask and gloves now, and at the end of it, the whole point of it was the AI, the ASI, the automated super intelligence to get people's DNA. And so what was everything going on is after they made this scare at this localized hospital and nothing was getting out, but they scared everybody into going to get vaccines for it. And the main thing was they weren't giving them anything. They were getting their DNA, harvesting their DNA to create other things for their idea was to be able to eradicate other viruses. And you see at the bottom is like the population DNA 67% keeps on going up. My wife goes to me and goes, all right, that was 2012, 2013. And it was like, wow, kind of like 2015. And that was talk about what's going on today. Yeah, it's even worse today. But they've been. I mean, you see many shows. How many people send me videos? Hey, did you see this in this one movie? This in this one movie. It's nothing new out of the sun. They pretty much have. It's kind of like sin in a sense. I was talking about that before. It's nothing different. It's just maybe with electricity. None of these plans they're doing is anything different. It's just maybe we have more electricity. We're more used to it. If you live like the Amish, you wouldn't care about it one bit. If the electricity goes off. I mean, was it today or yesterday? Whole Foods offering Palm technology to pay for groceries. Everybody's like, "Woo, that's so cool!" You put my hand out. Guaranteed. Just do an experiment. Go down your local Whole Foods if you live near one, and see people getting jacked about that. And then think, well, if they do that social credit score, how's that going to work? Because that's cashless society right now. You can't go in your wallet, hand them a $5 bill or whatever, and get anything back. Which $5 doesn't get you anything anymore. I mean, gas is. We talked about this last year, Rick. Everyone's upset. They put the stickers. I did that. Yeah, I did that sticker, and it was cheaper then. And we're like, well, eventually people are going to get, okay, it's going to be, normalized to high gas prices. You've seen anybody complain about gas prices in the last 3 months? I didn't see the sticker.
It's not the current thing. That's why.
We got other stuff to be mad about, Steve.
It's not the current thing to be upset about. Correct. Yeah.
It's over. That's law passed. We get $4 gas a gallon. Oh,
hey, man, college football started. All this other stuff, you know what? The masses are there, man. College football began. The American male has gone into their hibernation for the next 5 to 6 months. They don't care about nothing.
Indictment number 5 is coming to distract you even more.
Yep, absolutely. By the way, let's get this in there. Jeff with $27 of Canadian money. Thank you, sir. Likes getting paid for his work. So much better than Dung Flicks. Thanks, gent. Well, thank you, Jeff. Greatly appreciated. And thank you very much for your awesome super chat. Once you got college football and then the NFL is coming right behind it. And despite the fact that, ironically enough, I didn't save this, but the Buffalo Bills put out a tweet saying, who's ready for football season? And it's the Buffalo Bill logo on Bud Light cans. And everybody was like, ooh, this is going to be a fun season, because all of a sudden I found the NFL is gay post. Remember when they did that? The NFL is gay. I put that right above it. I said, there you go, bud. They're telling you, they're literally telling you they are gay and that they are perfectly fine with it. How many guys, remember with Steve, the controversy you brought up about Starbucks, how many guys who were blood red, I'll never be seen drinking a Bud Light ever again, on Sundays in NFL stadiums across these United States are going to be pounding 2, 3, 4 of them at a time in their escapism. Not going to church, but going to the football game, eating stuff in their guts with gluttony. And I get it. I'm a
Kid Rock came out. Remember, he was shooting Bud Light bottles and things up, and he went to some concert. Well, the thing is, at a concert or a stadium, what are you going to get? You're not getting the craft. You're getting Miller Lite or Bud Light. And
you could not drink.
I still get funny when I hear everyone going after Bud Light, going, well, what about Budweiser, Michelob Ultra, Michelob? I mean, there's a ton of Bud Light is under the umbrella of Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
There was adult drink Bud Light. Well, is it okay to drink Budweiser? I mean, I'm confused. What is it? Just one part of the family member, the cousin, but we don't like? I mean,
yeah, that's definitely something to take a look at in that regard. But yeah, I mean, folks, it's not going to get any better. The winter's coming. People are, they're struggling, and they're going to look for more and more escapism, and that's definitely going to be football and all the other bread and circuses.
Sports related. My prediction for the season is somebody will die on the field this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're already stopping. They're stopping NFL games if you get hurt. So
there's been a drop already in preseason. You just don't. It hasn't been publicized.
Yep.
I think it was Miami.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I will. It will not doubt me. I will not doubt it at all. Yeah, Jimmy Buffett.
The big promoter of the jab. He got up there and said, "We are the jab band," or something like that.
He was also 79. Let's.
Yeah.
I mean,
the cancer that came up, they ended up saying that it was a very aggressive and very fast move, which everyone that talks about it says that has happened. The aggressive forms have come up. Megyn Kelly's talked about it, getting a little problem from it. So that the age is there, but there's also another basketball player. I think it was from Arkansas. No, it was one of the college basketball players, young guy. The coach was a former NBA player, and one of their boys just dropped dead too.
Yeah,
don't so far the COVID though.
Right.
Roll up your sleeves. We got the new one in 2 weeks. Mandy Cohen will save you.
That's right. Don't worry. It'll be fine. Just shut up and take the jab, and then you can go back to drinking your Bud Light and watching the NFL, because that's pretty much your American male at this point. All right, folks, it is time for the Cry Room. Same of the week in the Cry Room. So, Floss, who you got?
Sorry.
Pass?
Yeah, pass. I got to think of one. I forgot about that.
Fine, I'll go first then, because I want to make sure none of mine get stolen. My saint of the week will be Ken Paxton here in the state of Texas. Looks like he's going to get acquitted, or the charges, the ridiculous charges to impeach him, which was all part of a plan they wanted the nefarious plan here in the state of Texas. They impeached Paxton for these bogus charges, but really what they want to do, they want to kick him and subvert the election to get the youngest Bush into the attorney general slot in order to get him into the governor's mansion. But after 3 days of it, it's become such a farce that this thing's going to get dismissed. So good job, Ken Paxton. You may not be perfect in all ways, but when it counts, you at least try to defend your state's rights to election integrity. And his lawsuit should have been heard by SCOTUS because it was the most constitutional, regardless of what you think, his was the most constitutionally sound lawsuit out there. It wasn't about ballot machines. It wasn't about anything else. It's like, hey, in this union, we're not getting fair treatment if these other states aren't, or if there are discrepancies there. And if you're in union, that's perfect way to look at it. But good job to Ken Paxton on that one. Cry Room, Liberty Safe. In case you haven't heard about Liberty Safe, Liberty Safe is a gun safe manufacturer, and it was discovered on August 30th that they assisted the FBI in providing backdoor access codes, which they have for every single safe that they sell to the FBI because the FBI had a general warrant for the property. Now, in case you don't understand warrants and things like that, I can give you a 30,000-foot idea about it. Warrants have to be specific. I know when you go to CSI, they're like, here's a warrant. They rip the house apart. The warrant has to specify what they're looking for. And if they're, a general warrant for a property does not allow access to something that has a lock and key. Liberty Safe was under no reason to give them those codes. But the fact of the matter is, Liberty Safe was bought by a mega conglomerate, which donates to Democratic donors. And it doesn't shock me that they have access codes for every single one of their safes. Now, they updated their policy and said, oh, well, we won't open it without general use of a warrant now. And you can opt out of it, this, that, and the other thing, which all they've said now is you get to fill out a form and then submit it to them. And then they can decide whether to run it or not. I'm betting that they're not. So Liberty Safe has decided to torch themselves by being woke. You should not have, anybody else should not have access to a safe once you buy it. It's like the person who sold you a table says, hey man, I get to come in and eat the food off your table every time because I sold you the table. It doesn't really work that way. So same of the week, Ken Paxton. Cry Room is Liberty Safe because just because they're in the gun community doesn't mean they're for the gun community. So that's mine. Steve, what do you got?
I thought we had a sponsor or something. I was like, wow, we got Liberty Safe. The way you were doing it was some kind of Glenn Beck commercial going. I'm like, hey, maybe I'll throw Rick in the
hey, I am not. Just kidding. I'm not far enough. I have no pride. I will pump whatever, I will pitch whatever anybody wants me to sell them. My show, the Daily Mag Dump, I am open for
the creation of a
whatever if you
synthetic
want to send my
embryo.
way.
What's that? It's basically a structure that mimics real-life human embryos, only that it's made entirely of synthetic or stem cells without using sperm, eggs, even a womb. Real. Sounds bonkers, right? Perhaps even dystopian. But what if I told you tonight that synthetic embryos are coming for us? All thanks to Israel. Scientists in Israel have created a quote-unquote incredibly human-like artificial embryo model. They are calling it a breakthrough, a scientific milestone of sorts. But is it really? Let's find out. First things first, who's behind the development of this embryo? A group of researchers at the Weizmann Institute of Science,
she didn't have one.
One of Israel's premier institutes for natural and exact sciences. What have they done?
This woman is literally
they have made artificial
a walking
models of human
stereotype.
Embryos from stem cells that were generated in a lab. Is this embryo human?
I'm waiting for her to ask me
and
if I want
even become one. It's made up of a cluster of cells that cannot grow into a person.
A Slurpee.
And why is that? Because it could not be successfully implanted into a womb. Meaning it could.
Think out on the middle. Can you give them a break? They know the Quickie Mart will open sometime soon.
Hey, Hapu would never go for, a fake baby. He had like 19 of his own the natural way.
You know what cracks me up about this whole segment? Just about an hour ago, she was talking about how great it is to kill babies. And now it's even better that we get to create them in a lab. Go figure.
That's why we got to kill them.
Well, there was an I have it on Cloud Planet. There was an article about how having babies naturally is not racist, but might as well be. But it's something like that. That it's being frowned upon to do that. So yeah, it's bad for that because you can kill it, but it's okay if you produce the baby out of a petri dish.
Right. I got my.
I'm going with my Saints of the week, I'm going with the
what you got,
football Georgia Bulldogs that
glad we just made
paid
fun of
for a
college football.
girl's cookie in a Subway. The mom was trying to she needed to go to the potty, and the Subway thing is they don't allow people to use the bathroom if they don't.
It's very European, that idea. You got to buy something to use the toilet.
Yeah, so the guys bought her a cookie so she could go up and get these guys off her back. Which
European
outside.
Like
they're just students too.
Sorry, we're messing up Steve's heartwarming story
You
about
are.
the cookie, the potty cookie. Sorry about that, man.
European. That was the perfect word.
That's what happened in Switzerland, man. You can't use the bathrooms unless you buy something. And
I don't like either one of y'all.
Yeah, well. And
and when you're done, you're finished. Anyway, who's your cry room, Steve?
I did it. You weren't paying attention.
The cookie?
No,
the Quickie Mart lady. Got it. Sorry, my fault.
Night.
Oh, that was your cry room.
That was the cry room. Yeah, that makes sense. That's actually
that was a random video.
All right.
My saint of the week is Royce White because he's doing good stuff on Twitter, but also he's running for Senate in Minnesota.
Yeah.
He seems like
and he put and he did feature one of Fwaz's songs on one of his posts, which was pretty awesome.
No, actually, I put that on there hoping that he would repost it, but I haven't gotten a hold of him yet. But no, I'm hoping because I thought that song fit perfectly with.
Oh, it was absolutely perfect.
Because he just got that real man energy, and we need that young men to look at that and say that's what real men look like. Other than that,
It was funny. I told Fawaz
now he's going to interrupt both ours because he's mad.
I told him about that a couple months ago, and I guess he told me Royce ran about 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah,
he ran for representative, right, Fawaz?
This
is the second time going.
Yeah, he lost to Omar actually.
Yep, he went toe to toe with Ilhan Omar, who's still in this country. She's been here since she was like 5, and she's like, I still talk like this. It's like there's no reason you talk like that. No, you're like Madonna. You went to London for 3 years, and now you have a British accent. That's that's not how this works.
Yeah, my cry room is going to be Father COVID, Father Matthew.
Oh yeah, yep.
I was going to give him a break since I've been beating him up all week.
Enough said. I'll put him on there. I don't have to elaborate even more. It's just the obsession with the jab. It's like between the mass, you got to do your daily office readings, minister to souls, confessions, and you're posting on Twitter more than a single person who's got nothing to do. It's
13-year-old girls.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Looks like we're that's it for this show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hanging out with us. Please like, subscribe, and share the news from the Pew. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you all next week, and God bless and Viva Cristo Rey.